Yeah, Sue, you know, right?
Of course I do.
Yeah, right.
Jeffy probably doesn't, but, you know.
Jeffy doesn't, so let's just pretend that there's some people that don't know who John Weiss is.
I mean, play that ridiculous game.
Yeah, just for humor the listeners.
All right, we're gonna. I'm gonna have fun telling you a story. I love stories with old guys like this. John Weiss was a preacher in Ipswich, Massachusetts, back in the 1680s, and he was a fairly large, sizable man. And we think of preachers today as being kind of wimpy and spineless and etc. Well, when he was quite old in life, elderly, he was white-haired and his hair was down on his shoulders. He had long hair. There was a ship captain that came over from Andover, came over to Ipswich, and said, "Preacher, I hear you were a pretty good athlete in your day. I hear you were a wrestler." And he said, "I challenge you to a wrestling match." And so here you've got the old white-haired man saying, I don't do that anymore. Come on, preacher, you can do it. And so he chided him, and so he said, "Okay, I'll take you on a wrestling match." Right after it started, he picked the young ship captain up, physically carried him to the fence, and threw him bodily over the fence. And the kid hit the dust and rolled out in the dust, and he stood up, he brushed himself off, and he looked at the old preacher and said, "Preacher, I'll be on my way right after you throw my horse over the fence after me." And so this is a guy that in his church, they had pirates back then, and the pirates took several of his church members. And so on the next Sunday, he prayed that God would cause his church members to rise up and butcher those pirates, and that's exactly what they did. They rose up and butchered the pirates. And so he's no wuss. I mean, he's got backbone.
That's the sermon I have not heard preached from the pulpit in a while.
That's
not
right.
in a while.
It's
yeah, rise up and well, Jeremiah Wright may have actually preached something similar to that at one point.
But he's the guy that preached those sermons that dealt with consent of the governed, that dealt with equality of rights based on creation, that we're created by God, therefore we're all equal. And he dealt with the sermon of the forms of government, because there are 7 forms of government in the Bible, and what they chose was a Republican form of government, which meant we want the consent of the governed.
Tell us about the first Thanksgiving, David.
First Thanksgiving happened